Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we did a live weekly rundown with a couple of my buddies, Bassmaster Elite Series angler Skylar Hamilton and Major League Fishing pro Jacob Wheeler. We talk everything from the fall transition period when those bass are going to get really stingy right now, to topwater baits, favorite setups, line to use, that type of thing, all the way down to some very sneaky good buzz bait tips. So, you know, I learned some stuff from this live segment, and that's what it's all about. So if you guys like this stuff, please comment below. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't miss this one. This is a good one.
Go! Get it! Free! What about it?
I like it. And
Hey.
Skylar. Welcome back, Skylar.
Oh yeah, yeah. Back in the daytime this time, actually.
That's right. We're back in the daytime. Well, hey, we're making it work with what we got, right?
It's
Your
yeah.
schedule, my schedule. That's just what we do. But anyhow, it's Sunday. Good morning, everybody. What's up from SoCal? What's up, guys? Cool. Well, we have a busy week. We got a whole bunch of non-fishing related stuff going on. Want to send prayers out to everybody that's going through hurricanes. Yeah, we got the Afghanistan situation. We got the COVID stuff. A lot of crazy stuff. We're going to stay away from that, but we are sending up prayers. It is Sunday morning, so sending out prayers to everybody dealing with that stuff. You know, we got our hearts out there with y'all, but we're going to keep it fishing for today because it is the end of August. And Skylar, what's the end of August ultimately bring?
Well, it brings a lot of heat for one thing. Brings a lot of pain and misery fishing wise. No, it's it's just that time of year where everything starts transitioning over to fall and can be the toughest time of year, like you know. And
That's right.
it's the sign of good things to come fishing wise, but
Right.
to get there you have to go through some hardship.
Yeah, we're about to go through some tough stuff. Now, where we're at in the South, we're going to run into some tougher stuff. Up north, not as much,
Yeah.
but it's still going to get kind of stingy on you. You know, and me and you have both fished a lot of the Bassmaster Opens that have ultimately, you know, a lot of them were in the fall, and there's going to be more Opens coming up this fall. Are you fishing any of them?
No, I'm not fishing any Opens. No.
I'm not either. I'm kind of glad. I think they got one on Lake Norman, I believe, that's like this September, maybe October. Going to be super, super tough. Didn't you fish that one?
Which one? The
Lake Norman back in like 15 or 14?
Yeah. I was there. It was a long time ago. Didn't your brother almost win one or something, or did he win one?
No, he won. Yeah, he won Lake Norman, but that was in the early spring.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was there. It was super tough. It was almost the same. I think it's like August or something, wasn't it?
It was September, I believe.
Okay.
It was just enough to get. It was just enough to catch 5 bass limit.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, it was everything. And the funny thing is that in that tournament, this is one of the things I wanted to talk about, was throwing topwaters.
Yeah.
And I had caught 2 on a spook that day. In one cast, caught 2 spotted bass, and I think I only caught 5 or 6 keepers that day. So catching 2 in one cast.
Yeah.
And, we got Wheeler tuning in. He said, "Teach me something." Nope.
I guess
We're
we're
giving out all the secrets.
If he can take my place, if you really want to learn something.
we could add. I don't know. Can you add 3 people in on this? I don't even know if you can.
Well, you probably could, but I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I'd probably. Yeah, I barely added you. You had to send me the invite.
Yeah, I got you back.
Oh, speaking on going on a tear, they've got one more event left, and he's already won 3 events this year. So, I don't know if I can teach anything. But anyhow, going back to the topwater deal, catching 2 fish on one top water, that made my day, made the event for me.
Yeah.
But Skylar is the best angler alive. No doubt.
Yeah.
But what's your top water setup? Because a lot of guys, they do it. I mean, they all have their certain preferences. Whether it's 30-pound braid, 40-pound braid. Do you run a solid mono? Do you run a leader?
Yeah.
Do you have to have a feather on your top water? I know you're a big feather, trebled feather guy. So.
Yeah, I like the feathers. Not for walking style baits. I've always thrown braid, and I've 30 to 40-pound test. I like 40 seems to cast better for me. I know 30 you would think that it would get further distance, but that's not necessarily the case with braid a lot of times because the smaller diameter can be tougher to cast. You know, it can dig into your spool. It blows up. And, so even 40-pound, even though it's a thicker diameter, you can get longer casts with the 40.
Right.
I always throw a leader with walking baits. I always throw like a 20-pound mono leader, 17, 20-pound mono leader, 2 or 3 foot long, and just for the shock and you know, eliminating some of the extreme. You know what? If you set the hook with straight braid, it's nothing. You have zero stretch, and that can't. Sometimes that's not good.
Right.
So with a little bit of mono, I like to have that, especially if they're jumping, the smallmouth and all that.
Right.
But 7.3, I throw a 7 foot to a 7.3, moderate style rod. Has a little bit of flex throughout the rod.
Right.
Something not too limber, but something that's easy to walk those baits. And that's the biggest key. If you have a super long rod, really hard to walk those baits, and it can just be overwhelming. But a 7-footer, I know a lot of people throw a 610. I like a 7-footer. It's 7 foot medium heavy braid and mono leader. You really can't go wrong.
That's perfect. Hey, we just got an invite. I don't know if you can add 3 people on here.
Oh, well, if he kicks me out, that's okay. Trust me.
Hang on. Let me see if this.
There he is.
There we go. You get it.
3.
What about it?
I like it.
Dang. I was sitting over
All
here
right.
watching. I was learning a little bit about how to throw a topwater.
Yeah, you need help with that.
Hey, so Skylar just gave his rundown on the top water situation. He gave his preference for line, his rod, his reasoning for what he likes to throw. So coming from a guy, you don't throw top water that much, do you?
I don't really have top waters. Really, I don't. Stuff that whole shelf over there's full.
You got
right there.
You got some sneaky tricks for top water stuff.
You know what's crazy? So it's interesting because DC throws straight braid on his walking baits.
Yep.
And I just and I was always this mono leader fan. Like, oh, let me put this mono leader on.
Right.
I started tying straight braid to all my stuff.
Yeah.
On my walking baits and plopping style baits and all that, and just I've not, other than a prop bait, I've not had an issue with tying as long as it's like Skylar said, 40+ pound braid. It seems like it. I don't like 50, but I don't like 30. 40
yes.
Like it is the juice. And I hate diameter too, so it just depends on which company you're using. But yeah, I don't know.
Skylar, ask Jacob how well I can cast at schooling fish with 30-pound braid on.
Yeah.
Hey, it was a struggle.
I know one thing too with the mono is I tie loop knots on all my walking baits. So people throw split rings and stuff, and I know some loop knots with straight braid don't work too well, and that's just. I mean, I don't think that it really matters. I think that it's whatever you like to do, and I know Jacob likes to save a lot more time than me, so if you just tie your spook on and throw it, it's gonna work. For me, I'm gonna sit down, tie a leader and all this stuff and waste about 10 minutes, but it's not gonna catch me any more fish.
But I feel like it's a big deal if you're talking about a prop bait though.
Yeah.
Bait, but I will say I have tied straight braid to my prop baits too and thrown, that little trick of putting 4 or 5 bobber stops in front of it to where it doesn't wrap it around there too. So you can do that as well if you're throwing a prop bait.
You see that little trick? Did everybody
you put
pick
like
up
4
on
or
that?
5 bobber stops in front of your deal so that the props doesn't, the line won't come back and wrap around it.
Gotcha.
Sorry,
Heck
my
yeah.
truck's going off.
You got the what?
I got my airbags on my truck going. So it's probably
There's never a dull moment at the Wheeler household.
ever. Hold on.
Ever. Ever. So that's cool. So we're going back to tough fall fishing. Obviously, top water being one of the deals. Skylar, what's your go-to top water in a tough situation? I mean, is it just the typical spook style bait? Do you like the ones that splash a lot of water? Give me what you think.
It's all conditions and lake and where you're at, but I tend to go with more transparent colors and maybe a chrome style bait, walk a little bit faster. It seems like when you have schooling fish, the bait's generally pretty small. So I've started throwing crystal clear baits, gin clear, top water baits on Douglas, which is pretty unheard of because nobody really does it. And you get a lot more bites. I feel like that they really can't tell what size it is. They're not going to shy away from it. You may not hook them too good, but this time of year I throw those clear baits, and I know a lot of guys for spotted bass will throw the chrome. I don't usually throw a bone colored bait. You're a more solid colored bait till later in the year when it seems like the water starts cooling down.
Right.
That's just my preference.
Yeah. What do you got, Wheeler?
I'm sort of like on the top water side. What's interesting is I don't throw a straight clear one very often, but I have seen where it does make it, especially on schooling fish where they're eating small bait. It does seem to be that way. But I got one thing for you.
How did I know that was coming out?
Oh, that buzzbait. That buzzbait bite.
So get away from the trebles. You go with the single hook buzzbait.
If I can cover water, this is a great time of year to cover water. It's a great time of year to cover water and move. You got to go a long ways to get a bite a lot of times right now. Sometimes you got the schooling fish deal where this fish are out there schooling on small bait, and then there's also the time of year right now where these fish are sort of wolf packed up. These bigger fish are sort of wolf packed up. They're going down the bank eating bluegill, and we'll pack them on bluegill. And a buzzbait is probably one of the best baits to throw. Especially when you have any type of cover, you can sort of roll that bait around, lay down. It's a little bit easier, not get hung up.
True. Yeah.
And so that's why, for me, a buzzbait's probably the best for going on the bank if I'm trying to mimic a bluegill and try to go, fast and still have a decent amount of commotion. Now, I'll play around with my blade size. This is one of my buzzbaits, but I got a bigger blade on there right now, and I'll switch up on blade size so we're smaller, bigger, because I feel like it does make a little bit of difference. And sometimes I'll just throw a regular toad and reel it down the bank if it's really flat, calm, sunny outside. But I think there's one thing. This is the time of year that you could throw that top water all day long, and people get locked up. Oh, man. It's
right.
Springtime, or, it's, first couple hours in the morning, last couple hours in the evening.
Yeah.
Really, this time of year, it's really getting to the point in the next 3 months.
Yeah.
You might as well have that some sort of top water locked in your hand.
Glue it in there. Weld it in. Go.
Bites.
Even in the dead, high noon, you can still get a bite on buzzbait. Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's getting to the point where it's so difficult to generate a bite. So many fish are scattering throughout the water column. So you have the fish that are out deep, the fish that are up there shallow. The bait's changing. You got that that small bait around. So some of those fish are keying on that. Some are still keying on gizzards. Some are keying in on this bluegill. And so they're all over the place. And it just becomes a deal where the more they scatter out, the tougher it gets to generate a bite. And that's when put that trolling motor down and just go.
What? There's a good question right there. They said braid direct for a buzzbait.
For me, that's what I do. Yeah, I throw braid. But the big thing with a buzzbait is, if you're going to throw braid on a buzzbait, you want to make sure that you don't have too heavy of a rod, an action of a rod. I'm not a fan of that. I run straight 20-pound fluoro. See, it all depends on if you get to the point sometimes when you're making a cast over a big giant flat, like a grass flat or something.
Right.
blow up on it, you got that fish.
That's true.
On a long throw. If you're making little casts and stuff, I go back and forth on it. I do think that I have a mono that I throw that has a little bit less stretch.
Yeah.
That I really like a lot. But I go back and forth on it. So for me, if I make a cast.
Skylar, what do you got? What's your buzz bait deal?
That makes a lot of sense because I tend to throw it on braid when it's like open water. If you're throwing it over submerged grass. But in the river, what's funny is he held up a buzz bait that's literally the only thing I caught a fish on a couple days ago. Is the exact one. So, and I threw a spook down the bank, the same bank, and didn't get anything. So that's But I throw 17 to 20 pound fluorocarbon. Even down in the river, especially because you're throwing it 20 yards at the most. You're throwing it under overhanging trees, and I'm not too good at skipping braid. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm not good at skipping braid with a buzz bait.
Not easy.
I can skip that buzz bait a lot better under overhanging trees with fluorocarbon, especially after it gets a little wet, But about every third skip of braid, dude, I'm putting the rod down. So
I feel like I pull it away from them. Like if I got braid on, I almost react to them too quick. Especially, I get to the point where I'm looking away from my buzzbait, looking at my next cast because I just want them to flush it. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see them because I'll pull it too quick.
See, that's interesting because that's what you have to adjust your line that you throw for you and make it specific to you. Because for me, the more that I can see that bait and I've trained myself where I see that fish get it, if I'm visually looking at the fish and visually looking at the bait when he eats it, I'm like a 95. I'm catching that sucker.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, I give it amount of time. It goes.
Do you wait? Yeah, you wait.
Yeah,
I let him eat
time.
it.
Yes.
Right.
And my problem is if I go the opposite way where I'm throwing down the menu, I hear woo. That's when I start snapping.
Got him. Got one. You're like, got him.
Exactly. So
awesome.
For me, that's the thing. So I think it's interesting because it's like everybody has their own opinion, and this is like even all three of us, all have thrown a buzzbait plenty, and it's not your exact setup is not perfect for every single angler out there. You have to sort of dial that in for yourself.
That's right. So we're gonna switch. It's kind of along the same subject, but a little bit different. We just did something really awesome. Jumped in your tunnel hole, Jacob. First time being in a tunnel hall for me.
Yeah.
Skylar coming just up the river from where we were at. He's like a tunnel hall aficionado.
No doubt.
So let's talk about some of that stuff because I don't know anything about it, but I like listening to what you guys have to say. I told Skylar the size of your boat. Skylar's like, man, that's a big boat to be a tunnel hall. But then, like you said, it's a wider boat, so it floats shallower. But fall time, you get to go places that you don't or that you can go and produce fish. Let's talk about some of that stuff.
Skylar, you've done more than I. So you start to sucker off.
Well, so mine's actually a prop. It's a tunnel prop, and I had it designed back when we could fish the opens with, and that was the whole reason that I had the boat made. There was a few events we had every year. It seemed like we'd go to the same places, and I said, I'm gonna make a boat that is designed for these few lakes. Because if you don't, man, somebody else is doing it, and you're gonna.
But it has a prop. It has a
prop. It'll the only difference with the prop and the jets. The prop is a lot more efficient with fuel. It's easier to steer. It's better in grass, but it takes a lot longer to get on plane if you have it set up right because of the tunnel. At least mine's that way. Jets, they usually they jump right up on plane. Easier to run in shallower water. You can make a lot more mistakes with the jet. With my prop, you make one mistake and you don't have a lower unit. Even if it sticks above the bottom of your boat, you can get into trouble because of the way it's designed.
Gotcha.
And I love that prop boat because I can take it to grass lakes. We have a few of them that are up here. And a lot of the tournaments here ban jet boats, but they still didn't ban tunnel props. So I can fish a lot of local events with that prop. It's kind of scary, and I wish I had a jet instead of the prop now because of the rules and stuff. But you know, like below the dams and stuff, I really enjoy fishing it, and it's just a 17-footer with a 70 horsepower. So it, you know, 35 is about as fast as you're going to run.
Yeah.
But it's in this time of year, and it's like it's just something different. It may not be that good, but I'm tired of sitting out here on a ledge in Douglas watching 10 people go by trying to get on it. And I want to go somewhere else and get 3 bites on a buzz bait down below the dam or something, and you know your day's done. So
that's like a perfect segue into Jacob's reasoning for what he.
100%. I mean that is what it's all about. I mean, this time of year we've talked about it already, where it's tough. It's tough to generate a bite. You know, the fish have gotten pressured. The fish that they've locked, you know, those summer places that they're out there, they've been beat up all summer long. Everybody knows where they're at because they've been fishing them since June or even earlier than that. And so now it comes to a point where it's so hard to generate a bite. And there's also a point where you just want to get away and just have a good time. And it's even like what we, you know, Hunter and I jumped in that boat the other day, and it was like, listen, let's go run somewhere I've never fished, you've never fished. We might get 0 bites. There might not be a batch that lives here, or we might catch 100.
There was 0 bites.
It don't matter though, man. It's fun.
But it is fun. That is what is so much fun to me, is going and just searching for a place.
Right.
Maybe someone's never been there before. Maybe only a handful of boats have ever been in that area. And it's like when you find a river or an area or like a creek that, like, it's such a cool deal catching those fish. Like it's almost like it goes back to me like actually wading some of the creeks when I was young. You know, when I was little, walking around, like that kind of fishing to me is such a. I go back to my roots of fishing even river tournaments back home.
Right.
You know, it's interesting though, because I look at it like, you know, I feel like there's a little bit of that. Everybody frowns upon jet boats and like, oh well, this guy can go run up in the jet, you know, this and that. But I feel like, you know, so that's one side of it. These little boats are getting where these big boats aren't getting. But then there's the opposite side of like, hey, the electronics game. Well, you know, you don't have a small, you know, some guys where they're like, hey, listen, I can't afford these electronics, but then you guys have these big boats.
Yeah.
I think they should allow jet boats, and I think it should be allowed, you know, aluminum boats in these tournaments, because I think it's sort of, there's advantages to both. You know, some guy wants to run an aluminum boat, and that's the only boat he has. I feel like that's a great way to hey, sometimes, you know, this time of year you might have an advantage.
Yeah.
Other times the guys that have electronics are going to have an advantage. So there's
it's like
a little give and take.
They offset each other in that sense.
Absolutely. So I mean,
like we're gonna go where you can't go, or you can see fish that you know that I can't see, vice versa. So for sure. But it is all about the adventure of going somewhere, because it's at the end of the day, you don't know until you do it. Like you don't know, oh, this looks good on a map or something, but you don't know until you get there. And then, oh, there was a bridge that looked like it was blocked, but you could get underneath of it. Or, I mean, how many stair steps did we go up? Like, I've never done that before. You know, race dirt bikes and motocross, and I'm like, all right, this is cool because it's not my boat, and I'm just hanging on, just bouncing along.
Yeah, it wasn't crazy, but it's a lot. And Skyler will talk about it. It's a lot easier going up than going back down.
Oh gosh, going down.
For sure.
My problem when I take my prop boat somewhere, it's really dangerous, or not necessarily dangerous, but dangerous to the boat. I can't hardly fish because I'm thinking about I have to go back down that at some point today. I'm up there like, okay, how am I going to get down that? How am I going to get down that? And you're trying to fish the whole time, and it's just, especially a jet boat, man, running downstream like real swift stuff. Right. It's hard to steer those things, like idling wise and all that. It's really hard to steer.
Yeah, you're at the mercy of the current at that point.
Especially when you like a big rock right in the middle of the riffle, and you just rolled up and you just missed it on the way up, and you're like, yeah,
yep,
it's gonna suck.
All right, let's do. We got, I don't know, probably. Let's answer some questions. Does anybody first off, we'll start off with Wheeler. How much longer you want to be on here, Jacob? I don't want to keep you on.
I'm good, dude. We're just hanging out, man. I'm just over here I had to swap a trollo motor bracket out, so I got that knocked out. I'm just trying to get a couple things knocked out, you know?
Tinkering. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Skylar, Wheeler, or myself? We'll answer some questions real quick. If not, we'll keep going. Best trailer for a buzzbait. Either one of you go.
No, that's for Wheeler. Dude, don't even ask me.
I don't know. A toad, you know, this is the thing. Like, I'm not sponsored by, you know, Zoom or anything like that. Like, I work with Coogan, Baits, a lot of their stuff. But horny toad is the best as far as just putting a toad on a bait and actually throwing it over. Now, for a trailer on the back of a buzzbait with actual skirts, skirt material, I would say some type of crawl. So, like, for me, like a Kraken crawl, you know, something that has, because I want that bait to rock. I don't really like a swim bait per se. I want that crawl with two appendages really makes that bait track well and keeps that bait down a little bit lower. So if I'm going to try to, you know, throw, you know, a black buzzbait, I might throw a black crawl, or I might mix and match it with like a green pumpkin crawl. Or if I'm throwing like, you know, a white one, I might try to switch it up and throw a smaller crawl. You know, white or there's even times that I'll mix and match colors. Like one of my favorite colors is actually throwing a black buzzbait with black and then throwing a white Kraken crawl, dip it in chartreuse and having that contrast of black and chartreuse. Even in the water, it works so well. So there's stuff like that I look, I would say for crawl trailers for me day in, day out.
Yeah. That's interesting that what you said about the swim bait though, because that's something in the fall time I really like throwing is put like a little 1/4 ounce or a little 1/8 ounce buzz bait, throwing a little like a 2.8 power swimmer, putting that on there, and I don't know why, but like it generates a lot. They're not always going to be big bites, but it's like when they're on that really small bait, and you know you can get written in really tight creeks and stuff like that, throwing that little swim bait on there. The problem is, you know, they'll nip at the tail and stuff like that.
It'll ride up on its side a little bit.
It does. I think getting the right buzz bait, you know, it does carry over like that at times. But once you get it dialed in, that sucker, it will generate. It will. That was a good thing to bring up. It's a bite getter. Skylar, what do you got?
I got a question for Jacob too, because I've always tried to figure out when to throw a skirt, and I'm sure there's videos or something out there about it, but when to throw a skirt versus a toad, because I'm more of the traditional guy. I like the skirt because I feel like nobody throws it anymore.
That's true.
But the toad gets bites, man. It's like the buddy that was with me, we were down below the dam. He was throwing a one-legged horny toad on a buzzer and just, you know, going to town. And so it works.
Yeah, it's tough because I feel like there's not really like I don't feel like there's a perfect answer for that. I feel like it's sort of just personal preference. I also think it's, you know, the toad gives you more weight to where you can make those casts a little bit easier. So that's the advantage of really the toad on a buzzbait, is the fact of having that weight to make that skip up underneath the dock a little bit further. You're gonna have bigger backlashes when it doesn't go your way, but you know, it does allow you to get that bait and make longer casts on flat. But it also comes down to the bait that they're also eating. So I feel like a lot of times in the fall, like when, like, you know, Hunter's talking about throwing a swim bait, you know, that's when I'll trim up the skirt really, really high, really close to the head, and then put like a small crawl on there to imitate that small shad. So that's how I'm not going to throw a toad in that situation unless I feel like they're eating gizzards. So I feel like it's all personal preference. Like in the summertime, when we go out there, like if you're going on a little creek or something like that, or a river system.
Right.
But it is tough because, like you said, like there's so many people that are doing that now, where at first it was like, man, this is an advantage. So you got to really look at the advantages of it and figure it out.
Here's a question for you. Inline buzzbait. Or those, you know what I'm saying? You've never thrown those? I forget who makes them. It's like it's got the buzzer and then it's got the hook right behind it. Like
the Greenfish makes a toader, I think it's called.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I've not really thrown him, but I inline buzzbait. I can't really comment on that one. I don't know. To be honest, gonna leave that one for old Skylar.
I don't own one myself. I had some that came with the snag-proof frogs when we fished snag-proof tournaments here. That was all we could throw. And it was like you'd get really desperate and you'd put a blade in front of your toe to see if it'd make a difference, and it never really did. So that's the only experience I have with it. It could work. I could see it being easier to cast, like underneath trees and stuff. But
yeah, it's kind of like a really subtle version. It's like more subtle of a deal. So you could run like I ran like a bigger swim bait on the back of it, like just a normal 5-inch swim bait, and then you have that up front of it, and that's
why didn't you answer the question?
Super close, because I wanted to ask the buzzbait guy himself.
There's one right here. Hold up. There's one right here that's a really good one. I want to sort of bred for bass. It says best smallmouth fishery, or what's your favorite smallmouth fishery? It says Erie, St. Clair, St. Lawrence River, or other. So I want to hear your personal favorite, or what you think's the best smallmouth fishery out there.
Oh gosh,
in the country.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to go against the St. Lawrence River, but then again, you got St. Clair as well. So I think those, I mean those are so close, and it's really kind of depends on your style of fishing at that point. I would rather lean towards St. Lawrence just because it's more structure oriented. As far as that stuff goes, we can't really talk much about it because you still got an event.
Yeah.
Out there finished.
We can't talk any specifics because I still have an event. Absolutely.
But dude, they're both full of giant smallmouth. The weird thing about that is, and that's maybe one thing we could get your opinion on, is like being from Lake Erie, seeing how Lake Erie goes through where there's times there's a bunch of smallmouth and they're big, and then years that it seems like it declines, but then it always comes back. And we've seen different fisheries, whether that be St. Clair, St. Lawrence, whatever, they kind of go through lulls and highs. Do you think those are like actual schools of fish traveling, or do you think it's just the fishery itself?
Man, that's a really interesting thing because, I mean, when you look at those major bodies, big giant bodies of water, when you're talking about like Erie, and we're talking about, I'm assuming, major, huge, big bodies of water, like, around the islands, Bass Islands and everything else up there.
Right.
There's just so many fish. I do think there's just those roamers that they move here to there, but I feel like smallmouth are a creature of habit, so they spawn the same places every year, very similar.
That's true.
So I don't know if you're seeing. I do think that what happens, they do migrate and move around with bait. And I think what happened on Erie is it's changed a lot because 5 to 8 years ago, you had these smallmouth that were almost complete, maybe 8 to 12, were completely dependent on, at least in the western basin of Lake Erie, were dependent on gobies. Mm-hmm. And the goby population was really big. Every time you reel one in, they look like St. Lawrence River smallmouth. Now, at least the last 5 years that I've been up there, it's almost like there's not nearly as many gobies. They're a little skinnier, and they're now more focused on shad and bait than ever before. So that's changed their diet, and it's also changed the way they move around and migrate. So I think that's the biggest thing. When you look at forage as a whole, and it's in the opposite on Oneida, where Oneida used to be completely about bait fish,
right?
Everything else, and the alewives and them running around and school and everything else. Now it's changed to where it's more rock related because the gobies, and they look more like the St. Lawrence River smallmouth or the Lake Ontario smallmouth. So I think the bait that they're eating is the biggest thing that changes fisheries year in and year out. And sometimes we as fishermen don't adapt to what
we get locked into such a certain thing in the way that it used to be, and it's constantly evolving, constantly changing.
That's my thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Skylar? Is there enough 18-inch smallmouth in Douglas?
That's a whole different story. The smallmouth up there, just a whole different breed. Which here, man, the ones. What's funny is it's kind of what you were talking about as far as going through changes, Cherokee and Douglas are real close together. I mean, they're 15 minutes apart from from where I'm at to the dam and to the other lake. And Douglas in past years, I remember my grandfather back in the 90s, late 90s, he caught like a 3-pound smallmouth out here. Dude, it made the newspaper because it was unheard of. Like, you didn't catch any. And now it's like you could possibly catch more on Douglas than you could Cherokee. And it used to never be like that. And I don't know what causes that kind of stuff, but, you know, whether it's just natural or if people are putting them in, because they really don't do a lot of stalking on Douglas. And Cherokees, you know, the largemouth are going away. And I used to go there and strictly fish for largemouth. You can't do that anymore and compete. Right. In Douglas, I've weighed in 5 smallmouth, which you never heard of before. Right. So it happens here too, and it just goes through changes. And I don't have a clue about any of that stuff up north. I just like to catch them, and they're stupid enough where I can catch. You know, sometimes I can catch them, and here, dude, it's just here they act more like a bass.
Yeah,
to me,
right.
So
they're not the same type of. It's not the same type of deal as up north, for sure.
Yeah, it's northern smallmouth and southern smallmouth. You're like, dang.
Yeah, well, their mouths are like this big too, like down here compared to the way that they grow, and you know, and that's all with how they eat and how they hunt and everything. They're different. Mm-hmm. But well, cool. I mean, guys, I think we covered a bunch. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Wheeler, I know you got stuff to do.
Man, I do. I'm gonna go take the little one out on the lake. I gotta go running around. I've been trying to let her catch a couple white bass.
There you go.
A little crappie and whatnot. So
yeah,
we've been having a good
soon enough. That'll be fun. Well, it's a good day. Yeah, it's a good day for it too.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I might run up to. I might run around. I don't know. We're gonna sort of see what happens. I got a plan though tomorrow. Holler at me. I got an idea.
All right.
I got an idea. We're going to go take We're going to have to put the Dayton Tundra in 4-wheel drive for this one, though.
The Jet Boat Chronicles continue.
Hey, I've got a winch if you guys need it. Just holler.
We might. Trust me. We're going, we might.
Oh, shoot. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate all you guys tuning in and watching us just shoot the crap, basically. But I feel like I learned a bunch just from the past 20, 30 minutes of hearing these two input on stuff. But as always, we appreciate you guys saying prayers out to everybody that's going through all the storms right now and all that stuff. So, but anyhow, have a good Sunday, and we'll see y'all later. Thanks for tuning in.
See you guys.